In this video, I'm going to teach you how to build an audience, very simply. But I thought it would be a really fun idea to, instead of just giving you some typical influencer strategy for 2023, I want to go through and tell you exactly what I would do if I was building an audience this year. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin, and this channel is all about becoming the coolest person you know so that you can live an extraordinary life and build an extraordinary business. And as I mentioned in the introduction, I wanted to basically create a video where I shared exactly what you need to do if you were going to start building an audience in 2023. However, I wanted to phrase it in the way that if I was starting again, what I would do, what my exact strategy would be. Now, if you're just meeting me for the first time and you're like, what do you even know about building an audience? I have actually prioritized building an audience online since 2014. And from that, I've been able to build a business that has generated millions of dollars since I started it. So I do know a little bit about building an audience, as well as I do have 12 years marketing experience. I started studying marketing back in 2010, but that's all the boring credential stuff. I really wanted to just sit down and also create an entire series around building a community. So this video is going to be the first video in a new series here on this channel, which is going to be called Influencer Vibes. Now, it is named after my signature program, Influencer Vibes, which is all about the psychology of marketing, how to build a scroll-stopping brand, how to create standout content, and how to build a highly engaged community of people for your personal brand or for your online business. And based on that program, I wanted to create a series here on YouTube, specifically if you are just starting out building your business or building an audience. And I wanted to go through all of the different aspects of building a community, both the psychology and the strategy, even down to how I plan and organize my content. So this is video 1 in the new Influencer Vibes series. Exactly what I would do if I was starting again, building my audience in 2023. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first thing that I would do if I was actually starting again in 2023, building my audience, is that I would sit down and I would strategize around my brand concept before I even started creating content on the internet. Now, I know most gurus will tell you just get out there and just start posting. And whilst this is good advice to build your confidence and to start building skills around content creation, if you think about your brand concept and your brand story right from the very beginning, you are going to have a far easier time standing out. The reality is that there are so many content creators these days, and there's new ones popping up every single day. Whether you're on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, it feels like every single person in the world wants to be a content creator. But what I will say is that the way to actually cut through, the way to capture attention is with your brand concept. Think about it. When you walk into, let's say, like Sephora, and you want to buy a cleanser, other than the fact of, let's say, whether you have previous brand recognition or you've been influenced by someone online, if you just walk into Sephora, how are you going to determine which is the product for you? The first thing that is going to gear you in one direction is going to be the brand concept, what it looks like. That is the first thing that is going to capture your attention. And then beyond that, the thing that may make that purchasing decision is obviously the quality of the product, the salesperson, but the first thing that is going to capture your attention is how that brand looks. So when you're thinking about building an audience, what is the story that you want to tell, and how are you going to visually represent that? You need to think about consumer behavior. Think about people, the people whose attention you are trying to capture. What is their behavior when they're consuming content? Scroll, 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 scroll. Most people are scrolling, or you might be on your TV, scrolling through the YouTube homepage. Most people are consuming content in a very passive way. What is going to break that passive scrolling? What is going to capture someone's attention? It is going to be how your content looks, how it feels in that first 0.0003 seconds. And so if you really want to capture the attention of your ideal customer, when you are creating content, you want it to look and feel a certain way. So the thing you want to start thinking about prior to even creating content is coming up with a brand concept. Now, I have an entire masterclass called the Visibility Masterclass. It is a free masterclass. I definitely recommend that you go check that out. Like I said, it is absolutely free, but it is highly, highly, highly valuable. And I go far deeper into both the personal psychology behind creating a standout brand, as well as some of the strategies that you can use to really build your visibility online. I will leave that linked in description below. Trust me, it is one of the best things that I have created. I mean, this person said that it is more valuable than $15,000 worth of coaching. So you can definitely check that one out. But just to break it down in this video, when it comes to brand concept, the things that you want to think about is the experience that you want to give your audience, both from an aesthetic perspective. So how does your brand look? You know, what are the digital assets and elements that you can infuse into your content to create a feeling for your ideal customer? I mean, an example of this is you see people all the time with this like dark, moody aesthetic. A lot of people are using that. A lot of people are using, let's say, the Y2K aesthetic. All of this is to evoke a certain emotion within someone, and it's to capture attention based on what is important to your audience. So if your audience is someone that really likes the dark aesthetic feed or the dark aesthetic mood, then they're going to more likely pay attention to content that looks like that. If your audience is someone who is really attracted to, let's say, nature and being in nature and travel and being within the elements, then if your content is representative of that, then they're going to pay attention to that. So how can you represent the feeling that you're trying to give people with the aesthetic of your content? That's the first thing I would think about, just making my content look a certain way to make people feel a certain way. Now, the second thing that you want to think about when it comes to your strategy is retention, right? We're thinking about consumer behavior here. First, we want to capture their attention. The second thing that we want to do is keep their attention. So what is going to keep them there? What is your primary brand value? What is that value exchange? What do you want people to experience when they're interacting with your content? That is the next thing I would think about. I mean, a simple question is, why are people going to watch you? Why are people going to follow you? Why are people going to come back to your content? You know, if you're just creating for the sake of it because you find it fun or it's your hobby, that's amazing. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is, if you're intentionally trying to build an audience, you have to think about, why are people going to continue to consume my content? The problem with a lot of social media these days is that a lot of people have very disengaged audiences. You know, you find someone on TikTok or Instagram Reels, and because it is just about the aesthetic, you may follow them, but you're not necessarily searching for them when you come back to your phone. There isn't really that relationship. There isn't that kind of like addiction to that brand or to that creator. You need to think about, how am I going to make people addicted to my content? And not necessarily in a bad way, but like, how do we want to get people coming back to our page? And that is going to be you strategizing around the value exchange. Now, there are a few things that you can consider when you're thinking about your value exchange. And again, it really does come back to the experience that you want your audience to have. Do you want them to walk away from your content feeling inspired? Well, make your content inspirational. Do you want them to walk away from your content feeling empowered? Make your content educational. Do you want them to walk away from your content feeling satisfied, feeling entertained? Make your content entertaining. So thinking about, how do you want people to walk away from your content feeling? Because if you can give them an emotionally resonating experience, they are going to remember that. We don't necessarily remember what we look at, but we remember what we feel. And so having them feel something when they are actually consuming your content will make them want to return when they desire to have that feeling again. So we've started to think about how we want to capture attention, and that is going to be with our brand. Then we've started to think about how we're going to keep attention, that is with that value exchange. Let's get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty strategy. So if I was starting again building my audience in 2023, I would defy all of the gurus who told me that I needed to be across every single platform on the internet. And I would make sure that I was mastering just one or two platforms. I know Alex Hormozi is like, just distribute your content everywhere. Alex Hormozi also has a $70,000 monthly marketing budget and a team of like a bazillion people, okay? So if you are just starting out building your audience, don't feel the pressure to spread yourself thin across all of the platforms. Choose one or two platforms and really master it. I think one of the biggest things that most people don't do is they just copy what everybody else is doing. They just jump on trends. They just see someone doing something on TikTok and think, well, they grew, so I'm gonna do the exact same thing. Sure, you might get, like I said, an empty follower base doing that, but you're not really going to build a brand that people constantly want to interact with. When you understand how the platform works, like the intricate details of a platform like YouTube and the consumer psychology of people consuming on YouTube, you can adapt that to make sure that you are using these features to truly highlight your personal magic, your personal skills, rather than just copying what everybody else is doing. So understanding how YouTube works, understanding how TikTok works, understanding how Instagram works, really spending your time studying these platforms and then using those features and formats to craft a really great experience for both you as a creator and for your ideal customer will help you to stand out and build your audience rather than necessarily having to rely on just focusing on trends. So again, don't feel the pressure to be listening to what everybody is doing. Just choose one platform and go for that. Now, the fourth thing that I would do is that I would become obsessed with understanding audience behavior, particularly the audience that you desire to attract. Now, if you're thinking about building an audience, if you're thinking about building a community, again, sure, you can just rely on what everybody else is doing, you can just rely on trends, but that isn't really going to make you a standout creator. That isn't really going to help you build an audience that is filled with highly engaged people. What you want to do is you really want to dive deep into consumer behavior. You really want to understand who your audience are, how they consume, and what makes them do what they do. The first place that you can start when researching your audience is start to research yourself. Thinking about your own consumer behavior will literally help you to create a blueprint for the type of content that is going to help you build your dream community. Because most likely, in many, many circumstances, unless you're building an audience for like, let's say an agency or a bigger business, but if you're building an audience for a personal brand or a personal brand-based business, it's likely that your audience are going to be very similar to you. So what you want to think about is understanding and analyzing your own consumer behavior. What makes you follow someone? What makes you search for someone and to go back and consume their content? What makes you subscribe to someone? What makes you share things? What makes you save things? Literally, get a notebook and become obsessed with your own consumer behavior, because that is going to leave clues for how your audience interacts with individual platforms and with social media at large. And when you start to understand why people do what they do, why they consume in the way that they do, you can start building a strategy around that. Again, I'm trying to give you a strategy that will highlight your unique magic. Too many people are trying to build an audience by just jumping on trends and doing what everybody else is doing. That's just not going to cut it in 2023. That is not what the experts are predicting how people are going to build an audience. We're focusing on real people and real engagement this year. And so understanding real people and understanding why they do what they do will help you to create better content and to create a better social media strategy overall. So just get really curious about your own behavior. Literally, anytime you find, like, let's say a reel and you're like, wow, I actually want to check out that profile, ask yourself, why did I do that? Anytime you actually press that follow button, anytime that, you go through someone's full story sequence, why do some people come up at the start of your stories? Like, why are they always there? Why are you regularly interacting with their content? Start to become obsessed with why you do what you do, and then you can pull that psychology into your strategy to create highly addictive content for your community. So let's just take a small step back to what we have done so far. So we're thinking about planning our influencer strategy for 2023. The first thing we want to do is we want to create a scroll stopping brand. We want to understand our audience so we can understand what is actually going to break their mindless scroll pattern. What are they going to pay attention to? What type of thumbnails are they going to click on, and what do they look like? What type of reels are they going to click on? What type of TikToks are going to capture their attention? And we want to design our brand around that. The second thing we want to do is we want to think about the value exchange. Why is someone going to come back to our content? How can we craft our content in a way that is going to make them addicted to returning to our page? What emotional experience can we give them so that they actually think about us when they're not even scrolling? The next thing is that I would really just master one platform, understand the features, understand the functionality, and understand how users interact with that platform so that I can really start to highlight my own skills rather than just copying what everybody else is doing. Then I would really start to think about my own consumer behavior and crafting my strategy around how I interact with social media and why I do certain things. The final thing that I would really think about, now I do just want to mention at this stage, I'm going to get into the nitty-gritties of like content production, messaging, how to actually create on individual platforms throughout this series, but I wanted to give you the kind of psychology behind an influencer strategy so that you can start really planning how you're going to show up this year. But the final thing that I would do, and I know this is going to be a little corny, is that I would just give myself space to make mistakes. I would just focus on getting better every single day. I would really prioritize learning. I would drop all of the expectations. I would try to drop all of the comparison. I wouldn't be looking around at what everybody else is doing and feeling bad about myself if my audience wasn't growing as fast as the person next to me. I would just focus on having fun with it. We're gonna get into all of the really fun strategy stuff, and I'm really here to help you build your dream community in 2023, but you have to promise me that you're just gonna have fun doing this. The most magnetic creators are not the ones that look like they overthink every tiny little detail, but rather the ones that just look like they just wanna be there. They just wanna be talking, they just wanna be creating. So yes, while we can simultaneously be really strategic around our strategy, the most important part of it is that you are having fun and you are adding value to people that you care about. So don't focus too much on your expectations. Just go into this with a curious mind, with an open heart, with desire to have fun. And I promise you, with all of the things that I'm going to teach you in this series, you will be building your dream community in no time. So I just want to remind you that I do have that free masterclass. If you would like to just, jump the queue and get started on your visibility journey, you can download that using the link in my description. But welcome to my new series called Influence Vibes, where I'm going to be teaching you exactly what you need to do to build a highly engaged community, either for your personal brand or for your online business. I deeply appreciate your time here with me today, and I will see you in the next video.